Liam, I swear to love you through sickness and shadow, to be the hand you reach for in the dark.
She never finished. A sound rolled up the aisle, a deep, guttural growl that didn't belong to any guest. A pregnant bobcat stood at the head of the aisle, its sides heaving slightly, amber eyes fixed on Emma with unnerving calm. It began to walk, slow, deliberate, carrying its swollen belly like a queen, entering a throne room. The officiant's mouth opened, but no words came. A guest shrieked, then clamped a hand over her mouth. The bobcat stopped precisely at the hem of Emma's gown and lowered its head, as if in reverence. From its jaws, a small, dull object dropped silently onto the grass, glinting faintly in the dappled light. A tarnished locket lay there, its thin chain coiled like a forgotten secret among the fallen leaves.
What? What is that?
The wedding had stopped. Something older than vows was demanding its place now, and the bobcat sat back, watching, waiting. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then Emma sank to her knees, the veil trailing finish natural, the veil trailing behind her, and reached for the locket with a hand that shook. She lifted the tarnished piece, her thumb finding the latch out of muscle memory she didn't know she still had. The tiny door swung open. Nestled inside was a photograph, its colors faded, but still sharp. A 4-year-old girl with messy brown hair, holding a bobcat kitten to her cheek.
That's me.
You? Emma? What are you talking about?
The locket, it belonged to my mom. She never took it off, until I lost it right here when I was 6.
Liam knelt beside her, his hand finding the small of her back, grounding her as the impossible reality began to sink in. The bobcat still hadn't moved. It sat there, a wild queen among the wedding flowers, its amber gaze steady on Emma.
This isn't random. This can't be random. Not here. Not today.
Emma clutched the locket against the lace of her dress, over her heart, and turned to face the animal that had carried it to her.
My mom was a vet tech. She found this kitten, half dead, abandoned, nursed it back to health in our shed. I named it Autumn.
The photograph inside the locket was taken the day her mother finally let Emma hold the fragile little creature.
I lost it in these woods at 6. Mom died 2 years later. I never saw either again.
Emma, that bobcat. It can't be the same kitten. It's been 24 years.
A guest rose, Dr. Keller, a biologist. She adjusted her glasses, her gaze fixed on the locket.
May I see that? Bobcat ear notches are unique identifiers, if it matches.
She took the locket, produced a jeweler's loupe from her bag, and held it over the tiny photograph.
The notch on this kitten's right ear, identical to the one on the adult. But I need more than a photograph.
My mother rescued that kitten and swore me to secrecy. It was illegal, but she couldn't let it die.
This is extraordinary. I need to verify with field records, but the match is. I've never seen anything like it. Did your mother keep a record of the rehabilitation? Any sketch of the notch or detailed notes?
She had a field journal. She drew that notch, called it a 3-point split. I thought it was just her doodling.
Dr. Keller raised her phone camera and zoomed in on the bobcat's still form, her breath held. On screen, the two images appeared side by side, the kitten's ear from the locket, the adult's from now. The notch was a flawless mirror.
The angle, the depth of the split. This isn't just similar. It's the same ear, the same animal.
Then it's her? Autumn? You have to tell me. Please.
Instead of answering, the biologist pulled out her own field notebook and began flipping through pages, her lips moving silently.
She knows. I can see it in her eyes. Why won't she just say the words?
The bobcat remained motionless, amber eyes fixed on the scene, as though it knew exactly what was being discussed.
I've studied bobcats in these woods for 20 years. 24 years is unheard of. I need a moment to be absolutely sure.
The pause stretched painfully, The officiant stepped forward, hands clasped, his calm voice cutting through the silence. He suggested they continue with the ceremony, but Emma's gaze never left the bobcat. Perhaps his words trailed off. From the third row, a man's voice broke the hush. "It's just a stray cat. Someone shoo it away, and let's get on with things." Emma flinched at the cruelty of it, but she didn't turn. Her focus remained on the creature that had carried her past back to her.
We can take a minute. You don't have to rush. His voice was a shelter.
But she shook her head, the barest movement. The tarnished locket felt heavy as a stone in her palm. The guests shifted in their seats, a low murmur spreading, half annoyed, half utterly spellbound by the unfolding impossibility.
Why today? Why bring this back now, after 24 years?
The bobcat watched her without blinking, the slight swell of her belly rising and falling in the charged silence. Emma stood at the crossroads of ceremony and miracle, unable to choose, while the world around her, guests, groom, and wild queen, waited.
Your mother. Why keep the rehab a secret? Was she afraid of getting caught?
She said, the law didn't understand that a vet's duty is to heal, not to follow paperwork. She'd have lost her license if anyone found out.
Emma's voice cracked as she described the afternoon. She wandered too far, the locket slipping from her neck without a sound.
I ran home crying. Mom searched for hours with a flashlight, but she never held it against me. She just said, "It's only a thing, Em. Love doesn't live in a locket."
But that locket held the only photo of the kitten. And now, a bobcat that shouldn't be alive returns it.
She held up the vintage photo again. The 4-year-old's smile, frozen next to a bobcat kitten that by all rules should have been dust by now.
My mother's field journal is locked in a cedar chest at home. Every page is filled with stories of the animals she saved. Autumn's entry is the longest. She poured her soul into that journal. It's the closest thing I have to her voice now.
Captive bobcats can live 20 years. In the wild, 15 is ancient. If this is truly Autumn at 24, it changes everything. We know about Philid loyalty.
And in that moment, the impossible began to feel not just possible, but predestined. A debt paid after a quarter century. A different guest shook his head, loud enough for all to hear. "It's just a coincidence. The animal found the locket and brought it." Someone else countered, almost reverently. "Nothing like that just happens. Not at a wedding." As if in answer, the bobcat rose and turned, presenting the unmistakable curve of her pregnant belly, twin lives carried within. The sight stole the breath from the crowd. Life on the brink of more life. Emma's hand found her own heart.
Mom always said animals remember kindness longer than humans do. She was right.
Older predators often stay near their birthplace. If your mother released her here, Autumn would have remained in these woods. Territory fidelity could explain how she brought the locket to the exact spot, but the memory, that's beyond our current models.
The bobcat, Autumn perhaps, lowered herself onto the grass with a heaviness that spoke of approaching birth. The skeptics fell silent. Even the officiant had stopped fidgeting. The impossible was starting to look like the only explanation. Emma remained frozen, but her eyes no longer asked why. They held a question older than doubt, and she was finally ready to answer.
Emma, ear notches are like fingerprints. They never change. This split. She hesitated, her voice breaking. I have to show you.
She held her phone up to Emma's eyes. The screen split between the locket photo and the live bobcat. The notch was a perfect twin.
The probability of this being a coincidence is 1 in millions. Scientifically, I can't call it anything other than a match. But to say her name, that belongs to you. I am just the witness.
Please, just say it. I need to hear it from someone outside my heart.
She handed Emma the phone with trembling hands. The biologist stepped back, giving room.
She's waiting for me, but I've believed since the locket touched my palm.
The bobcat let out a low, rumbling chirr, a sound not of threat, but of recognition.
In my field records from 20 years ago, I logged a missing kitten, notch description identical. She was never found again. Until now.
The truth was there, undeniable, but the sentence that would name it remained caught between science and miracle. The chirr grew louder, then softened into a purr that vibrated across the aisle. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Without a thought, she lowered herself to the grass, veil pooling behind her like spilled moonlight. Her knees pressing into the cool earth, she extended her hand, palm turned upward and trembling, stopping just short of the bobcat's chin. The bobcat blinked, slow and deliberate, a gesture of trust no wild cat gives lightly.
She remembers you. Against all odds, she remembers.
I feel her. After all these years, I feel my mother standing right here.
Tears streamed down Emma's face, but she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall like an offering onto the grass. Liam knelt beside her, his presence silent but solid, his hand resting near hers on the grass.
I know you. I've always known you, even when I forgot your name.
The moment stretched, sealing itself into the fabric of their life, a covenant older than any spoken vow. The officiant cleared his throat, a thin, nervous sound that sliced through the stillness, but no one turned. No one even heard. Dr. Keller stepped forward, her hands trembling, every wall of scientific detachment crumbling in her eyes. She was about to say the unsayable.
Emma, I believe this is Autumn. She is the same bobcat your mother saved. She came back to you.
A sharp gasp escaped Emma's throat. Her fingers curled around the locket so tightly the edges bit into her skin. The name hung in the air like a prayer answered too late to be believed. Even the bobcat seemed to still, her amber gaze never wavering. The little girl in the photograph had been waiting 24 years for someone to call her kitten by name. Emma's tears were no longer just sorrow. They held recognition, reunion, a door she never expected to open again.
It's really her, Em. Autumn came home.
My mother sent you. Through the woods, through the years, she sent you back to me.
And, as the wild cat rested on the grass, swollen with new life, the impossible became undeniable. The wedding would wait. Something far older had arrived. Emma pushed herself upright. The grass stains on her ivory gown, a testament to something truer than planned perfection.
You carried this across the woods, across the years. For her. You didn't forget, not for a single season.
The guests didn't breathe. Their earlier annoyance had melted into a collective awe, watching a wild creature return a lost piece of a girl's childhood.
My mother sent you, didn't she? Through the storms, through the winters, she sent you to give this back.
The bobcat's throaty purr vibrated through the silence, a sound that felt older than the forest itself, soothing and deliberate.
All those years, I blamed myself for losing it, and you were guarding it, carrying it in your mouth like a promise.
Liam helped her steady, his hand at her elbow, but he didn't speak. He understood this wasn't his moment to shape.
I am not angry anymore. I am grateful beyond any words I know, and I hope you can feel that.
The officiant stood mute, the ceremony hanging in the balance, but no one in that clearing dared push forward the clock of human order. The bobcat closed her amber eyes for a long moment, as if acknowledging duty done, and the past and present folded into one seamless chord. Emma turned her head slowly toward Liam, her eyes glistening with a question she didn't need to speak aloud.
I am right here, Em. Finish it however feels true. She's part of this now.
With trembling fingers, she pulled a pale ribbon from the edge of her veil, something borrowed from her own wedding dress.
I need to hold this locket through the rest of my vows. It's not a disruption anymore. It's the reason.
She knotted the ribbon around the locket's chain and fastened it to the stem of her wildflower bouquet. The tarnished silver lay against ivory petals. The bobcat rose with a heaviness that honored her condition, walked the few steps to the base of the wildflower arch, and lowered herself onto a bed of golden leaves. A collective exhale seeped through the guests, not of fear, but of something closer to reverence. The wildcat had chosen to witness.
She isn't leaving. She's going to be right here, as if my mother herself carved a seat in the front row.
The officiant gave the smallest nod, granting permission with watery eyes. The ceremony hadn't been broken. It had been redirected towards something far more enduring. Emma faced Liam again, the locket tapping gently against the bouquet with her heartbeat, and the forest itself seemed to lean in to listen.
Liam, I started this vow with a promise to love you through shadow. I didn't know what shape that shadow would take, but today we were given a witness neither of us could have dreamed. A wild soul who carried my mother's love across 2 decades. You didn't flinch when the impossible walked up that aisle. You knelt beside me and held steady. That is the man I am marrying.
Liam's composure finally broke. His jaw tightened, and he pressed his lips together to keep from sobbing. She took a breath that seemed to draw strength from the forest itself, and the next words left her lips raw and unguarded.
My mother used to say that love doesn't live in lockets. It lives in what we do when we think no one is watching. Autumn kept watch for 24 years.
At the sound of her name, the bobcat's ears swiveled forward, and she let out a chuffing breath, as if sealing the vow with her own wild signature.
So I am going to promise you not just my heart, but its history, the sorrow and the miracle. Because you loved me through both today.
A line of guests in the front row had abandoned all pretense of composure. Dr. Keller wiped her glasses, and the woman beside her openly wept. The ceremony had become something no planner could design, a sacred knot tying together loss and loyalty, the wild and the wedded, with one unbreakable locket at its center. The air itself seemed to hold its breath as Emma turned from Liam and faced the bobcat fully, her voice now steadier than it had been all day.
Autumn, you brought back more than a locket. You returned a piece of my soul I thought I'd lost forever. I won't let you be alone again.
We'll make sure of it. This forest is our home now, and she will be guarded for as long as she needs.
Emma rose and turned back to the officiant, her bouquet now heavy with the locket's weight, her intention set like stone. With a subtle nod, she gave permission for the ceremony to reach its final crest. Liam's hands trembled as he slid the ring onto her finger. The officiant's voice broke with emotion as he pronounced them married. The kiss that followed was fierce and grateful, sealed by something older than ritual. The bobcat let out a soft, purring chuff, the only benediction the forest needed. Applause erupted, but it felt secondary to that wild amen.
Somewhere, somehow, my mother is smiling. I can feel it in every leaf that falls today.
Emma, I'll document everything. I'll make sure this place stays protected. Autumn deserves a sanctuary for whatever time she has left.
Emma cradled the locket against her heart. The promise was made now, not just between two people, but between a woman, a memory, and a wild soul entering winter. As the reception tent rose beyond the trees, Emma and Liam crouched near Autumn, who had accepted a bowl of water but stayed apart from the crowd.
She's ancient Em. If a storm hits, if she can't hunt, what then? We can't just walk away.
I can arrange a reinforced den, heated, monitored, but she's wild. She might abandon it if we intrude too much.
Then, we build it near her chosen den. Warm, dry, hidden. She can come and go. It'll be her cathedral for winter.
Liam squeezed her hand, silently calculating the cost. Money, time, a honeymoon postponed, and deciding it was worth it.
You don't get to receive a miracle without cost. You become its keeper, or you lose the right to call it yours.
As dusk fell, Autumn rose heavily and began a slow procession toward the tree line, her tail flicking once before she dissolved into the underbrush. She didn't ask for sanctuary, but she had accepted a covenant written in the language of a long memory, and a locket returned.
Stay safe, Autumn. When spring comes, we'll be here. We'll always be here.
The wildflower arch stood empty behind her. Winter was coming, but for the first time in 24 years, Autumn wouldn't face it alone. By December, the wildflower arch stood skeletal under frost. Just beyond the tree line, a low stone den with a cedar roof rose against a granite outcrop, steam curling from a hidden vent. Autumn, her belly impossibly round, padded up to the entrance and vanished inside. She did not emerge for 2 days. When she finally emerged, the trail camera caught the sound of mewling. 3 tiny bodies, eyes still sealed, nursed against her fur.
They're alive. Her kittens are alive.
Kittens, at her age, is a risk. She'll be weaker, faster, but she's fighting.
The honeymoon was gone. The land they'd planned to buy for a house was now spoken for winter feed. Veterinary visits, permits. They didn't care.
You build a life around what you love, or you lose the shape of it completely.
By early March, autumn had thinned dangerously. The ear notch that had sealed the miracle was now a marker on a creature barely keeping up with her own offspring.
She's given you everything. It might be time to accept what comes next.
Then we'll make sure what comes next is a sanctuary. In her name, in my mother's name. No more secrets.
The sanctuary paperwork became Emma's second job. Regulations, permits, habitat assessments. Every form felt heavier than the last.
We've exhausted the wedding gifts. Mortgaging the land means no safety net, no backup, no second chance.
Then we fall. But we fall knowing we gave everything for her, for my mother, for this locket.
They signed the land trust agreement on the first day of spring. The ink bloomed like the wildflowers that would soon cover the hillside.
I've secured a research grant. It won't cover everything, but it'll pay for the first year of veterinary care and monitoring.
The sanctuary broke ground with a single shovel, the same one Emma's mother had used to plant the now gone apple tree behind the shed.
This is the rest of my life now. No neat hours, no pension. Just this land and these animals.
By mid-April, the first enclosure posts rose. Autumn's kittens, now half-grown, chased each other through the tall grass nearby. Autumn rested in the shade of the wildflower arch, thinner than ever but watching. Her duty was almost complete. The sanctuary had a name now, etched on a temporary plaque. Maggie's Hollow. Emma traced the letters with her finger and didn't cry. Winter reclaimed the hollow with silent fury. Snow buried the wildflower arch up to its keystone, and the sanctuary fence glowed under a blanket of white. Autumn had not left the heated den in 2 days. The trail camera showed her curled into a crescent, her breathing shallow.
The vet says it's her heart. No pain, just slowing down, like a clock that's finished its counting.
Then we don't let her count alone. We go to her.
They found her just outside the den, resting on a bed of frost, the locket she had delivered, still placed on her chest by someone who couldn't bear to take it.
You waited for me, didn't you? You held on until I could be here.
The locket rose and fell with a final breath, then stilled. Autumn's eyes closed, and the forest seemed to exhale with her. Fresh tracks circled the clearing. 3 sets of smaller paws. The kittens had been there in the night, and were now gone into the trees. They buried her beneath the wildflower arch, a flat stone with a single carved paw print, marking the place where the impossible had knelt.
The locket stays here on the stone. It belongs to the hollow now, to the wild and to her memory.
By Autumn's return, the sanctuary opened its gates. A permanent plaque now stood at the entrance. Maggie's Hollow in memory of Margaret Collins.
She never got to see this place, but her spirit is in every rescued animal we shelter. Autumn's gift made it possible.
That summer, after the first orphaned fawn was released, Emma discovered she was carrying a child of her own.
A daughter. If it's a girl, we name her after your mother. It feels like the right stitch in this circle.
In the spring, Emma held their newborn. They named her Margaret, after a grandmother she'd only know through stories and a locket.
Little Maggie, meet the world? It's wild and it's wounded, but it's also full of impossible returns.
The original locket still rested on the stone under the wildflower arch, but a replica hung in the nursery, the old photo joined by a new one of Maggie the infant. Maggie's hollow grew each season. Autumn's kittens became regular visitors, and the woods remained a sanctuary for any wild thing in need. Autumn's bloodline returned each fall, a new litter born in the hollow behind the arch. The circle held, and on quiet evenings, when the lights slanted low, Emma would walk Maggie to the arch and point to the stone, whispering, "That's where the miracle knelt." When Maggie was old enough to ask about the locket, Emma didn't hide the tears. She lifted the replica from around her neck and opened it.
This is you, and this is me, when I was your age, holding a kitten your grandma saved. Her name was Autumn.
Maggie traced the tiny photograph with her finger, then looked up at her mother with eyes that understood more than a child should.
Autumn lived to be very old for a bobcat. She brought this locket back to me on my wedding day, and because of her, we built this sanctuary.
The sun dipped behind the wildflower arch, turning the clearing into a cathedral of gold. Maggie leaned against Emma's shoulder and listened.
Grandma Margaret was a healer, even when the world told her to stop. You are named for her, and for the wild she loved.
Maggie's small hand reached out and touched the carved paw print on the stone, tracing the grooves that had weathered many seasons. The replica locket held 2 photographs now, the old one of Emma and Autumn, and a new one of Maggie herself, taken under the same arch. Emma kissed the top of Maggie's head. "This is your inheritance, sweetheart, not money. A story that proves love doesn't end." And somewhere deep in the forest, a young bobcat with Autumn's eyes paused at the tree line, watching before disappearing into the dusk. Evening settled over Maggie's hollow like a benediction. Emma sat on the cabin porch, the replica locket open in her lap.
All this from a tiny piece of silver and a wild cat's memory.
Liam sat beside her, his hand covering hers. No words were needed. In the clearing, the stone under the wildflower arch glowed pink and gold, the original locket still resting there, untarnished by weather. A young bobcat, Autumn's granddaughter, skirted the arch, pausing to touch her nose to the paw print before melting back into the trees.
They remember. They'll always remember.
Liam pulled her closer. The sanctuary hummed with the soft sounds of dusk, crickets, rustling leaves, an owl's distant call. Inside the cabin, Maggie slept with the locket's story already woven into her dreams.
My mother once said love doesn't live in lockets, but I think it does. It lives in the people who keep the story alive.
And as the last light drained from the sky, a single paw print glowed on the stone, carrying the promise forward. Dawn spilled over the wildflower arch, catching the locket's edge and throwing a tiny constellation of light onto the carved paw print. The sanctuary was silent, not from emptiness, but from fullness, a held breath, shared by every wild thing that called it home. On the porch, Emma still held the replica locket. She looked up as a shape moved at the forest edge, a bobcat, young and proud, with the same ear notch. The bobcat stood motionless, amber eyes meeting Emma's for a long, unbroken moment. Then she turned and vanished among the pines.
She came to show me. The line isn't broken.
Liam helped her to her feet. They walked together to the arch, where the stone waited, warm with sun. Emma knelt and touched the original locket, still resting where she'd placed it years ago. The metal was cool, the photograph inside unchanged. The tiny photo of a girl and a kitten looked up at her, a loop closed but never finished.
It's still here, Mom. Your mercy is still running wild.
And the forest answered with wind through the leaves, carrying a sound that might have been a purr, or might have been a name, Margaret.